Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today I got the Eldrich Omens box, and I'm going to be talking about these guys. These are the Aeldari Rangers, or Eldar Rangers, that were part of this box set. So, a few notes before we get to building and then the cut, is that Eldar were one of those races that I thought about getting but never did. You see, when I started in 2nd edition, they were in a really weird way, but their book was really cool because it had Corsairs and Eldar Exodites in. Eldar Exodites are sort of like Dragon Riders or Tyrannosaurus Rex Riders or Dinosaur Riders, and Corsairs were pirates. Now, people thought that Dark Eldar were basically them, but Forge World did a Corsair army, and of course it was resin parts with an old plastic kit. But now as they've returned, I thought that I would return, or start, the Eldar, and, well, let's get started. So there's going to be a cut, there's going to be them built, and then there's going to be a little bit of me talking about the Eldar from 2nd edition at the end. So please stay tuned. Thank you all. Okay, so these are them built. I've built the dual wheel pistol, the one holding like a viewer, the one ranging up a shot, the one using some sort of technical doohickey, and the one taking off the scope. So you get, that's a head that I didn't use in the end, you get quite a lot of spares, but they weren't very hard to put together. There is a couple of alternate weapon holding options, but they are monopose, so even if you choose the alternate weapon poses, you are still stuck with how their legs work and how there are a few mold lines and gaps in where the parts connect that you will need to fill. I haven't filled them yet. I just wanted these built up quickly and to make a video about them. Eldar Rangers, I'll talk about in the next part, so stay tuned for that. We'll be looking a little bit at the history of them and a few other bits. These are the first time I've ever put Craftworld Eldar together, or should I say Craftworld Outcasts. I'm excited to paint them actually, as they are the first non-Dark Eldar I'll ever paint. So stay tuned. I might do something with the bases. Yes, I know there's a hair from a cat there as well, so sorry about that. But yeah, they were okay to put together. No fiddly, not as bad as the Hidden Knights riders that I put together. Those were still the worst kit I think yet to assemble, but they're okay. They're okay. Stay tuned for the Shroud Runners and the third part where I'll talk about Eldar. Thank you all for watching. If you're going to stop here, please like and subscribe, and on to the next part. To talk about the Eldar or the Eldari is to first understand their place in the galaxy. So what we have to do is we have to go back a bit to the fall of the Eldar. It's when the Eldar had an empire basically, and they partied too hard. And they gave birth to a rather disturbing god called Slanesh. Now, this is rather the Clip Notes version of that story, but for all intents and purposes, most Eldar either were killed, fled into the webway, and later became Harlequins, or fled into the webway and became Dark Eldar, or fled to the Maiden World and became Exodites. Those who didn't became the Craftworld Eldar, or the Craftworld Eldari. When they fell, the Eldar had to have a complete social upheaval and change the way that they viewed themselves and others in the galaxy. This was mainly to stop Slanesh from munching on their souls. You see, when they gave birth to this god, damned themselves and all future descendants. They had basically doomed their entire race by basically being hedonistic maniacs. So what they did is they created a new social strata, and they created paths for themselves. These paths are largely different. For example, the path of the warrior is sometimes they would seek a aspect shrine and become aspect warriors, or sometimes they would join with various other military disciplines, such as maybe they would join the Guardians, or which are basically just a citizen levy, but they would join those first, and maybe they would go on to becoming a aspect warrior, or maybe they would go on to be an Eldar outcast or whatever. There are several paths, and the one we're going to look at today mainly is called the Path of the Outcast. That isn't really a path, but is at the same time. You see, to save themselves, the Eldar have to wear soul stones, so when they die, their souls are transferred into a magical, a technologically based gem or magic. You know, Arthur C. Clarke once said that when technology is so advanced, it's indistinguishable from magic, and the soul stones are fairly on that level in my opinion. Maybe they aren't in some others, but when you can transfer a soul of an individual into a gemstone looking construct, I think that is quite high technologically level, and it's certainly much higher than most imperial technologies and maybe other races as well, save maybe the biotransference for the Necrons, but they lost their souls, but they kept part of them or something. Not 100% sure on that, but there we go. There are other paths such as Artisan, Command, Dreamer, Grief, Mariner, but the Outcast is considered outside the paths, but it isn't at the same time, as I've already said. They are the Rangers, they are the people who will go into the wilderness, they are the people who will go into the void and make contact with various alien races, and while they're not on the same level as Corsairs, they certainly do know the galaxy at large. These are individuals who will spend 90% of their time away from a craft world. Unlike the Corsairs, they are not trying to loot people, they are trying to explore, they are trying to be away and distract themselves from the considerable weight on their souls that Slaanesh puts on them. You see, even though they are outside of the paths, they still have to wear those soul stones. And you see many figures and many pieces of artwork of Aeldari Rangers still wearing these gemstones, so they can in fact avoid the predations of Slaanesh. Even though these outcasts, even though these outsiders are away from the main forces of Craftworlds and the various Craftworlds we can discuss later if people are interested, but these individuals still associate with warlocks, who are the keepers basically of traditions, and sometimes they would reclaim the soul stones if their fellows died on the battlefield or wherever. You see, a soul stone is important to the Eldar. It will be put into an infinity circuit, and then depending on which flavour of Eldar you are, the Ynnari will use these soul stones in order to wake their nascent guard, whereas others will use them to power Wraith Lords and Wraith Warriors and Wraith constructs of all different manner. It is important to note that the Outcasts themselves is very close to the Path of Damnation. Not as close as Corsairs, but fairly close in regards that they can be driven mad. There are some self-destructive urges stuck in the mindset of an Eldar. Whether this again is a curse or it's just a prediction of the race is rather unknown, and it's been left rather a grey area. Sometimes these people are disgraced, sometimes they're young Eldar. Young in comparison to humans is still ancient in an Eldar, in a human's eyes rather, whereas a 300-year-old Eldar warrior might be considered as a rather young individual. By human eyes, he's seen as ancient. He's seen things that only humans can dream of in a lifespan wise, even with rejuvenation treatments. Sometimes it's hard for people who aren't augmented or don't have funding to see this age, and I think that some of the mankind's hatred towards the Eldar is not just due to their manipulations and their trickery, it's to do with how long-lived they are. Most of these times, these rangers, these outcasts, become heralds of Craftworlds, and occasionally they will return and pick up other paths, but occasionally they won't, and sometimes they end up becoming Harlequins, or sometimes they end up going to the Dark City, or they end up joining bands of Corsairs. The Corsairs themselves don't see Rangers in the best light and only have maybe one squad with maybe a few Shroud Runners as Pathfinders and scouts into nascent
raiding runs. There is a word for outcasts in the Aeldari language, and that is Elshire. They are often viewed by regular Craftworlders as untrustworthy. Maybe they are not seen as horrible as a Corsair or their Dark Eldar or Drukhari brethren, but they are seen as strange. They have chosen to abandon the pathway. They have chosen to make themselves more vulnerable to Slaanesh, hunger and inclinations. It is unknown who the first outcast was, or maybe there were outcasts at the fall and they just decided to go it alone. They knew that their time was rather limited because of the hungers of that god they birthed, but they still could not force themselves into a disciplined and regimented lifestyle. Other Eldar consider them too boisterous, too emotional and too hot-headed, and that might be true. Maybe again not as hot-headed as their Corsair brethren or the Dark Eldar, but they are not fueled by hate and pain like the Drukhari. They are not fueled by maybe the sense of wonder that Corsairs are. For every Eldar that is maybe saved by them, another will be spurred on perhaps to pick up a long rifle and join them in the galaxy at large. So that's just my thoughts on the Path of the Outcast and Eldar Rangers. We looked a little bit at the history of them as well, but mainly I hope that this 3-part video is informative, and that will make you maybe look up some paint schemes or something, or maybe it won't. Anyway, I've been Trix, everyone, and you've been all of you. Do take care of yourselves, and bye bye.